Most people think intermittent fasting is about starving yourself. It's not. It's about eating so well within a short window that you never want to eat again until the next day, and that changes everything. If you've ever tried fasting and failed, chances are you were doing it hungry, constantly watching the clock, white-knuckling your way through the morning, and eventually caving by 11 a.m. That's not a willpower problem, that's a food problem. What you eat during your eating window determines whether fasting feels like torture or like nothing at all. And by the end of this video, you're going to see exactly what that looks like in practice. Let's start with something most fasting guides skip entirely: the morning routine before food even enters the picture. The first thing many successful fasters reach for isn't a protein shake. It's coffee. But not any coffee. Organic, with heavy cream, not milk, not a sugar-laden creamer. Why does this matter? Because the fat in heavy cream, especially grass-fed heavy cream, does almost nothing to break your insulin response. Milk has lactose, that's sugar. Half and half sits somewhere in the middle, but heavy cream, minimal impact. You get the mental clarity from the caffeine, the slight satiety from the fat, and your fast remains essentially intact. One small cup, that's it. Not 3, not a thermos, 1. There's evidence that chronically high caffeine intake can stress your adrenal glands over time, so the goal isn't to fuel yourself on stimulants, it's to ease into the morning. Around an hour or two later, many people find that a large glass of water with lemon juice helps bridge the gap to the eating window. Not lemon-flavored water. Real organic lemon juice, 1 to 2 ounces in 16 ounces of water. This is also when supplements can fit in naturally, since many are better absorbed with some liquid and a bit of acidity. Now here's the thing most people miss. By this point in the morning, still hours before eating, there's no hunger. None. And that's not a coincidence. It's a sign that your body has shifted into burning stored fat for fuel. But the length of the fasting window matters enormously. Eating your last meal at 6 in the evening and not eating again until 2 in the afternoon the next day means roughly 20 hours of fasting. That's not just skipping breakfast. That's giving your body a massive window to do something it almost never gets to do in the modern world, run on its own resources. According to research, this kind of extended fasting window may support metabolic flexibility, cellular cleanup processes, and even cognitive function. The first few days feel strange. After that, most people report not thinking about food until their eating window opens. Now, what actually goes in that first meal? This is where things get specific, because this is where most people get it wrong. They break their fast with something carb-heavy and then wonder why they're starving again 2 hours later. Blood sugar spikes, insulin spikes, crash, hunger, repeat. The goal of the first meal is to provide protein, fat, and some vegetables, with very little that converts quickly to glucose. Think 4 eggs, pasture-raised and organic if possible, not free-range, not vegetarian-fed. Those labels are largely meaningless. Pasture-raised means the animals actually lived outside and ate varied diets. You get more omega-3s, more fat-soluble vitamins. Cook them with 4 ounces of bacon, about half a standard pack, from a quality source. Organic, no nitrates, ideally from a farmer's market or health food store. Bacon often gets a bad reputation, but much of the fat renders off during cooking, and what remains is largely monounsaturated fat similar to what you'd find in olive oil. Plus, pork is one of the better sources of B1, which supports energy metabolism. Add 3 ounces of sheep or goat cheese. These tend to be better tolerated than cow's milk cheese for many people, and the fat content contributes to satiety without spiking blood sugar. Toss in a 1/4 cup of olives and a sliced tomato for some micronutrients and fiber. That's a first meal that can carry most people 5 or 6 hours without any desire to eat again. Here's the thing about hunger signals. When you eat this way, you start to realize how much of what you thought was hunger was actually habit. You ate at noon because it was noon, not because your body needed fuel. Once the eating window shifts, the hunger signals follow. Your body is adaptive in ways most diet advice never acknowledges. The second meal comes around 5 or 6 in the evening, roughly 3 to 4 hours after the first. And this is where the volume goes up, not in calories necessarily, but in volume of food. Start with a large salad. 7 to 10 cups isn't unusual, and that sounds like an enormous amount until you actually eat it. Use a base of loose leaf lettuce. Not iceberg, not spinach, something with actual texture and nutrient density. Add bell pepper, tomato, maybe some cabbage or shredded kale, a bit of Parmesan. Then dress it with olive oil and balsamic vinegar. Most commercial salad dressings contain seed oils, added sugars, and preservatives that quietly undermine what you're trying to do. Olive oil and balsamic is simple, and it works. After the salad comes protein, around 7 ounces. And here's where real variety comes in. Sardines with bones and skin are one of the most nutrient-dense options available. Calcium from the bones, omega-3s, B12, selenium, wild-caught salmon, shrimp, a grass-fed steak. High-quality hot dogs from a farmer's market, yes, those exist, and they're very different from what you'd find at a gas station. If you're doing burgers or hot dogs, mustard over ketchup. Mustard has almost no sugar, while most ketchup is essentially sugar with tomato flavoring. Add fermented vegetables like sauerkraut if you have them. The beneficial bacteria support gut health, and the sourness actually helps with digestion. Finish with a small handful of pecans or pistachios. Both are relatively low in carbohydrates compared to most nuts, and they provide minerals and additional fat to close out the eating window. And then, nothing until the next day. No late night snacking, no just a bite. The eating window closes, and that's it. This is the part that sounds hardest and turns out to be easiest, because by this point in the evening, if you've eaten what we just described, you genuinely aren't hungry. The body is satisfied at a cellular level, not just a stomach level. Here's what this all adds up to. You are eating 2 real, substantial, satisfying meals. You are sleeping on a relatively empty stomach, which many people find improves sleep quality. You are waking up without hunger, moving through the morning on stored energy, and repeating. Over time, the body adapts. Sleep needs may decrease slightly. Mental clarity often improves. Energy becomes more stable. No afternoon crash. No mid-morning hunger spiral. The key insight that ties all of this together is one that the fasting world often buries. The fasting window only works if the eating window contains the right things. You can fast for 20 hours and then eat processed food for 4 hours and end up worse than if you hadn't fasted at all. Quality of food and quality of the fast are not separate variables. They're the same variable. Now, which part of this approach do you think you'd struggle with most? Cutting out the morning snacking, changing what's in the meals, or actually closing the eating window at night? Drop it in the comments. I'm curious whether most people stumble at the start or the end of the window. Next week, we're going deep on what actually happens inside your cells during those fasting hours. The process most people have never heard of that may be one of the most powerful health mechanisms your body has. You don't want to miss that one. If this kind of content is useful to you, subscribing means you'll see it when it comes out. Not because it helps a metric, but because this research takes real time to put together, and it only makes sense to share it with people who actually want it. This video is based on publicly available research and personal accounts. It's not a substitute for medical advice, and what works for one person won't automatically work for everyone. If you have a health condition or take medication, talk to your doctor before changing your eating patterns significantly.